The final warning. In the cold emptiness of space, the stars twinkled, unaware of the terrible storm brewing in the galaxy. For centuries, Earth had known peace, but that peace was about to be shattered. A signal came through, so urgent that it rattled the very foundations of Earth's defenses. On a quiet day in a small command center deep under the Earth's surface, Captain Olivia Mitchell sat staring at the monitors. She had seen many things in her career: space battles, alien invasions, and desperate struggles, but nothing like this. The message on her screen was clear, and it felt like a punch to the stomach. Urgent, galaxy in danger, enemy fleet advancing, Earth next. Help is needed immediately. The words echoed in her mind, sending chills down her spine. She had never seen a distress signal like this. The voice on the other end was shaky, full of fear. The call was not just from another world, but from allies Earth had once helped aliens, who were now fighting for their very survival. She quickly pressed a button to alert her fleet commanders. Within moments, the room filled with urgent whispers, as the officials scrambled to make sense of the threat. The Galactic Council had been silent for years. Earth had kept to itself, focusing on rebuilding after the last conflict with the alien species known as the Varaxians. But now, the message changed everything. Mitchell's mind raced as the weight of the situation sank in. Earth had always been strong, proud, and independent, but they had never faced anything like this before. The fleet they had built in secret over the years, those most powerful force, was their last hope. Yet even it seemed small in comparison to the alien menace advancing toward them. On the bridge of Earth's flagship, the Vanguard, the crew sat tense, awaiting orders. Commander Alex Reyes paced the floor, his hands clenched into fists. He, too, had heard the message and knew it was not just a simple warning, it was a countdown to destruction. Earth's greatest minds had worked for years to build a fleet strong enough to defend the planet. Yet, this enemy, whoever they were, seemed like an unstoppable force. This isn't just about Earth anymore, Reyes muttered to himself. It's about the entire galaxy. The Vanguard was Earth's most advanced warship, equipped with technology that could level entire planets. But the fleet wasn't just about firepower. It was about humanity's resilience. These men and women had fought for survival when the universe had turned its back on them. And now the universe needed them again. As Mitchell stood in the command center, she took a deep breath. She could feel the eyes of the room on her. The fate of billions rested in her hands, and she was no stranger to high stakes. But this time, the cost could be more than just a battle. It could be the end of everything they had worked for. The fleet commanders looked to her for guidance. The decision was hers. Earth could hide, retreat, or fight. But the Varaxians and other alien allies had warned her that time was running out. The enemy fleet was no longer just a rumor, it was real, and it was heading straight for them. Activate the fleet, Captain Mitchell said, her voice firm, despite the rising anxiety in her chest. Prepare for immediate departure. We need to answer this call for help. It's now or never. In the space station above Earth, the colossal warships began to power up. The Vanguard and its sister ships, each one a marvel of human engineering, came to life. The hum of engines filled the air, and the giant ships began their slow rise from the surface, cutting through the clouds. At that moment, the universe seemed to hold its breath. As the ships gathered in orbit, Mitchell felt the weight of history on her shoulders. This wasn't just a rescue mission. It was a stand for Earth, for humanity, for every life in the galaxy that depended on their success. Suddenly, the fleet commander's communicator buzzed. It was a direct line to the Galactic Council. A shadowy figure appeared on the screen, a being that looked more alien than human. Their voice was steady but urgent. "We cannot wait any longer," the figure said. "The enemy is almost upon us. We need your fleet, or we all perish." With the countdown ticking, Mitchell looked out the viewport at the stars. For a moment, everything seemed so quiet, so still. But in the vastness of space, something was coming, something deadly and unstoppable. And Earth's fleet would either stand tall or fall trying. "Prepare for war," Mitchell ordered, a steely determination in her voice. "This battle is far from over." The crew nodded, silently agreeing. They were not just fighting to protect their world. They were fighting for the future of the galaxy itself. The desperate battle, the stars outside Earth's atmosphere were like a sea of fireflies. Distant and, at this moment, unbearably far away, but inside the vanguard, it was anything but quiet. The crew, fully assembled, prepared for what could be their final mission. Everyone knew what was at stake, and the atmosphere was charged with a mix of adrenaline and fear. Captain Olivia Mitchell stood before the holographic map of the galaxy. The alien fleet was nearing Earth, their ships larger than anything humanity had ever seen. The galaxy's most feared conquerors, the Xyrithians, had set their sights on Earth, and now they were just days away. "Commander Reyes." "Report." Mitchell's voice cut through the room, steady despite the weight of what was to come. "We've got a dozen ships in formation." Captain Reyes responded, his brow furrowed as he observed the data flashing on his screen. "It's not just a fleet, it's a weapon. Their technology is light years ahead of ours. We don't stand a chance unless we're able to hit them hard and fast." Mitchell nodded, her eyes scanning the screen, calculating their odds. They were Earth's strongest fleet, but the Xyrithians were a different kind of enemy, unpredictable, relentless, and cruel. They had never faced anything like this before. "Take us into the battlefield." "No more waiting," she commanded, as the Vanguard and its fleet of warships left Earth's orbit. The crew was filled with a sense of unease. This wasn't just another mission, it was a desperate plea for survival. Their engines hummed as they made their way into the cold expanse of space, where time seemed to stand still. But soon the calm was shattered. The first shots came without warning. A powerful wave of energy crashed against the shields of the Vanguard. The shockwave sent vibrations through the hull, and alarms blared in every corner of the ship. Reyes slammed his fist against the console as the ship rattled. "We've made contact," he said, his voice tight. "The Xyrithians aren't wasting any time." Mitchell's hands clenched the armrests of her command chair as she leaned forward, eyes burning with focus. "Return fire. Take them down, all ships. This ends now." The battle that followed was like nothing they had ever prepared for. Earth's fleet launched into action, their weapons lighting up the darkness of space with explosive force. The Xyrithians responded in kind, unleashing a storm of lasers and plasma that lit up the night sky. For every shot Earth's fleet fired, the enemy retaliated with 3. The Vanguard shook under the force of another blast, the shields flickering dangerously. Mitchell gritted her teeth. They needed to outthink their enemies. But how? The Xyrithians had far superior firepower, and Earth's fleet was only out them slightly. "Launch interceptors," Mitchell barked. "We need to buy time for the larger ships to regroup." In response, smaller, quicker fighter ships shot from the Vanguard. their engines roaring as they darted between the larger enemy ships, engaging in high-speed dogfights. Explosions erupted as missiles flew, turning the once serene blackness of space into a chaotic battlefield. But the Xyrathians weren't going down without a fight. As Earth's fighters made their assault, the enemy ships deployed massive energy shields, deflecting most of the firepower. It was clear this was only the beginning of a war that was quickly escalating beyond their control. The commander of the vanguard wasn't just fighting for survival. She was fighting for humanity's place in the universe. She could feel every second slipping through her fingers like sand. But she couldn't afford to lose focus. Then came the twist they never saw coming. A massive shadow loomed on the horizon, larger than anything Earth's fleet had encountered. The largest of the Xyrathian warships, known as the Oblivion, appeared on the edge of the battlefield. It dwarfed everything in sight. Its energy shields were a glow of deep red, and its weaponry looked as if it could annihilate entire cities. In one blast, Mitchell's heart skipped a beat. "They've got a super weapon," Reyes whispered, his voice full of dread. "If we don't stop that ship, we're done." The Oblivion unleashed its first attack in energy pulse that sent Earth's fleet reeling. The Vanguard was hit hard. Sparks flew across the bridge as systems malfunctioned. Crew members scrambled to maintain control, their voices shouting over the chaos. "We can't take another hit like that." One of the engineers shouted from the back of the room. "Shields are at 40%. Mitchell's mind raced. This wasn't just a fight for Earth, it was a fight for the future of the galaxy. If the Oblivion wasn't stopped, it would be over. All of it. She looked to her tactical officer. "Get me a shot at that ship's power core. We need to disable its weapon." The officer nodded, his hands moving rapidly across his console. "Aiming now, ... Target, locked, fire." Mitchell shouted. The Vanguard's main cannon fired, sending a bright beam of energy toward the Oblivion. But as the beam made contact, the Oblivion's shield flared brightly, absorbing the blast with ease. The superweapon was still intact. Mitchell's mind flashed with the realization they were losing, fast. But as she looked at the Oblivion, she noticed something that gave her hope. A slight weakness in the ship's shields. It wasn't much, but it was enough. A glimmer of light in the darkness. "Prepare the second wave," Mitchell said, her voice calm but determined. "We hit them with everything we've got." The fate of the galaxy rested in their hands. And now, more than ever, Earth's fleet had to stand tall against the greatest threat they had ever faced. Asterisk, the hidden weapon, the battle raged on, and the sky above Earth was a war zone. Earth's fleet fought with every ounce of their strength, launching wave after wave of attacks. But the Xyrathians were relentless. Each blast from the Oblivion superweapon sent Earth's ships reeling, as though the galaxy itself was determined to bring them to their knees. Mitchell's heart pounded. In her chest, there had to be something they could do. The tide was turning in favor of the alien invaders, and Earth's fleet, though strong, was beginning to falter under the crushing pressure. The Vanguard was heavily damaged. Its engines were sputtering, and several of its weapon systems were offline. Mitchell stood before her command chair, her eyes fixed on the holographic display. The Oblivion loomed large, its dark silhouette burning into the backdrop of the stars. And Earth's forces were struggling to stay afloat. "We can't keep up with this," Reyes muttered, his voice strained as he surveyed the battlefield. "If we don't find a way to take that ship down, Earth will fall." Mitchell's gaze hardened. "Then we'll find a way." The alien fleet had overpowered them, But something wasn't right. Mitchell's instincts screamed that there was more to the oblivion than it appeared. She had seen it too many times in her career, a weakness hidden behind layers of strength. There had to be a flaw in the enemy's strategy, something they could exploit. "Take us into formation with the others," Mitchell ordered. "We're not out of this yet, not by a long shot." Her voice was unwavering, but inside, her mind raced. They needed something they hadn't counted on, something powerful enough to break through the Oblivion's defenses. Then it hit her like a bolt of lightning, a weapon, a secret weapon hidden within their own fleet. It had been part of Earth's strategy for years, but never deployed. No one had even considered it until now. The Vanguard's communications officer turned to Mitchell. "Captain, we've intercepted an encrypted transmission. It's from the Galactic Council. They're offering us a way out, a weapon designed specifically for this kind of threat." Mitchell's brow furrowed. "A weapon? What kind of weapon?" The officer hesitated, clearly unsure. "We don't know the full details, but it's something ancient, created long before the current war. A prototype that could change the course of the battle, but it's risky." Risky. That word sent a shiver down Mitchell's spine. There was no time to second guess. Earth had nothing left to lose. She turned to Reyes. "Prepare to make the jump to coordinates 3-0-1-9. Set course for the location now." Reyes' eyes widened. "You're serious? That's on the edge of Zyrathian-controlled space. It's a suicide mission." Mitchell didn't flinch. "We're not going to survive if we don't try." The fleet commander stood tall, her eyes scanning the room as she gave orders with precision. She knew the gravity of the situation, but she also knew this was their only chance. They had to find this weapon, and they had to find it fast. With the decision made, the Vanguard and its fellowships surged forward, diving deeper into enemy territory. As they approached the dangerous location, the fleet moved with stealth, their engines muted, trying to avoid detection. The closer they got, the more tense the crew became. It was almost as though the very fabric of space around them was alive, charged with an invisible energy. As Earth's fleet entered uncharted space, the oppressive silence of the cosmos seemed to grow. The feeling of being watched was impossible to shake. Suddenly, the Vanguard's sensors blared. "Enemy ships detected," shouted one of the officers. The Oblivion had followed them, its massive bulk now flanked by several smaller ships, all advancing with deadly intent. The Zyrothians had anticipated the move, and they were closing in, shields up. Mitchell commanded, her voice steady as the adrenaline surged through her veins. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers. We need to buy time for the other ships too. Reach the weapon." Explosions lit up the space around them as Earth's fleet engaged in another deadly firefight. The Vanguard shook under the force of the blasts, but the crew was ready. They had fought for this moment, and they weren't going to let it slip away. In the midst of the chaos, Mitchell's eyes never left the communications officer. "Where's the weapon?" she demanded. The officer checked the screen. "It's close, very close. The device is inside a derelict space station. It's been abandoned for centuries." Mitchell nodded. "We'll take it. Whatever it takes." The Vanguard surged ahead, pushing through the barrage of enemy fire. The derelict station loomed in the distance, a rusted, crumbling structure, hanging like a tombstone in the vastness of space. As they neared it, Mitchell felt a strange mix of fear and hope. This station could be the key to their survival, or their downfall. The fleet dropped out of hyperspace just in front of the station. and Mitchell's breath caught as the doors to the ancient station slowly creaked open. Inside, hidden away for centuries, was the weapon that could turn the tide of the war. But as the crew prepared to retrieve the weapon, something strange happened. A voice, cold and metallic, echoed through the station. "You have arrived too late. The weapon is not for you." Mitchell's heart skipped. She was about to find out just how dangerous this mission truly was. The final stand, the voice that echoed through the derelict station, sent chills down Mitchell's spine. It wasn't just a warning, it was a threat. And the more she heard it, the more she understood. Earth had walked straight into the heart of a trap. "You have arrived too late. The weapon is not for you." The words seemed to linger in the cold, empty space around them, rattling the crew to their core. They had fought their way here, crossed enemy lines, and risked everything to retrieve a weapon that could save humanity. But now, it felt like the universe itself was conspiring against them. "Captain, we've got incoming," Reyes shouted from the command deck. The lights on the ship flickered, and the screens blinked with the familiar, red warnings that told them the worst. The Xyrethians had followed them into the station. The Vanguard's weapons were recharged, but it was clear that this wasn't going to be an easy fight. The fleet had already taken heavy damage. Their ships were limping, not fully equipped for the chaos of a fight in the heart of enemy territory. And now they were running out of time. Mitchell's mind raced as she processed the situation. "Shut down all non-essential systems," she ordered. "Prepare for boarding." Rhea's voice was tense. "Boarding, Captain. What are you suggesting?" She turned to him, her gaze unwavering. "The weapon is in there, somewhere. We fight for it, or we don't fight at all. We can't let this opportunity slip away." The Vanguard's engines hummed as the crew geared up. Every single member knew that this could be their last stand. The atmosphere in the ship felt heavier now, each person knowing they were about to face something far worse than they had ever encountered. They were no longer fighting to protect their world, they were fighting for their very survival. A team of elite soldiers, including Reyes, prepared to board the abandoned station. They would go in, search the crumbling structure, and secure the weapon before the Xyrethians overwhelmed them. Every second felt like an eternity, but there was no other choice. Meanwhile, outside the station, the alien ships were circling like sharks, waiting for the kill. The Oblivion, the massive warship that had decimated their fleet, was now closing in. Its shields were glowing with an eerie red light, impenetrable to anything Earth had. Mitchell stood on the bridge, her hand gripping the command chair as she glanced at the screen. She had just made one of the most difficult decisions of her life. Her heart pounded in her chest, but her mind remained clear. "Reyes," she said into the comms, her voice steady, "find that weapon, and don't come back without it." With a final nod, Reyes and his team stepped into the shuttles, preparing to board the ancient station. The cold metal of the station's walls reflected the dim, flickering lights, casting long shadows over the crew. The space station was more than just a ruin, it was a reminder of the galaxy's forgotten past. Its dark halls had witnessed battles long before Earth had even dreamed of space travel. And now Earth's fleet was about to discover its deadly secret. Inside the station, Reyes' team made their way down narrow hallways, their footsteps echoing in the empty corridors. The silence was oppressive, and every corner they turned felt like they were walking into the unknown. They had to find the weapon before the Xyrethians found them. Time was running out. Suddenly, the ship's communications system flickered to life, and a cold voice filled their ears. "You cannot have it. The weapon will remain sealed forever." The words seemed to vibrate the very air around them. The team continued forward, ignoring the voice. But then, one by one, the doors to the rooms they had been sent to search slammed shut. A force field blocked their path. The station was fighting back. The mission was no longer about retrieving a weapon. It was about survival. Reyes looked around at his team, his eyes scanning the dark, shadowy halls. Something was very wrong. They had crossed into a place where no one was meant to go. "We need to regroup. Get to the central chamber," Reyes shouted. His team ran, following his orders without hesitation. The sound of their boots echoed through the metal hallways as they reached the station's core. But what they found inside was even worse than they had imagined. In the center of the chamber was the weapon, an enormous orb pulsating with energy. It looked like nothing Reyes had ever seen. It wasn't just a piece of technology, it was alive, breathing with the power of ancient civilizations long past. It glowed with an otherworldly light, casting long shadows across the room, and standing next to it was the last thing anyone expected to see. A figure human in shape, but not human in nature. It was a person, or something that looked like one, trapped in an ancient stasis field. Their eyes were closed, their body frozen in place. But it wasn't just a person. It was something else entirely. The voice from before returned, louder this time. "You are too late. The weapon cannot be controlled by your kind. It will only destroy." Reyes' heart raced as he stared at the figure, trying to comprehend what he was seeing. This wasn't just a weapon. It was a sentinel, a guardian of the galaxy's oldest secrets, and it was not going to let them take the weapon without a fight. Behind him, the sound of the Zyrathian ships grew louder. They were closing in, and time was almost up. Earth's fleet was counting on them. Reyes and his team had to make a decision. The orb, the weapon, could they control it, or would it destroy them all? There was no turning back now. They had come this far. The final stand was about to begin.